you haven't really talked about like being motivated to, stick it to teams that maybe pass you up, but just kind of like, how much has that driven you a little bit? Because we know you've just been driven by just getting better, being around this group, but how much has that kind of driven you as you've gotten better?
I mean,
Hey guys, welcome back to TH Sports. Now today, I want to talk about a little beef in the NBA, if you could call it that. The other night, the Memphis Grizzlies took on the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas. Memphis would end up being the winners that night, winning 97-90, being led by their second-year guard, Desmond Bane. Desmond scored 29 points that game, and obviously had a point to prove to Dallas that I don't think they were ready for, or even Josh Green was ready for. So today, I want to dive a little bit into the comparison of these guys, and whether Dallas really did stuff up, and if Bane's comments were called for. So before I get into this, I think it's fair for you guys to see the full video. So here it is.
I don't need a bunch of extra motivation, but every time we play against a team or an organization that I felt like would be a good fit and, was on me during the pre-draft process, it definitely motivates me a little bit. Like you said, I mean, I know almost all the guys that were drafted in front of me. So if there's a guy on that team, I mean, Josh Green was drafted in front of me. I don't know if he played tonight, but that's on them. That's not on me.
Dallas is awfully quiet right now. I think it's fair to say that Desmond really wanted to go to Dallas, and he believes he would have been a great fit. And really, there's no denying that. Dallas, at the time, probably still is really, were looking for a nice perimeter defender and three-point shooter. A very valuable player in the modern NBA. And what was Desmond Bane? A nice three-point shooter, a solid perimeter defender. So who did they pick? Josh Green, who was an elite defender who's short, needs a little bit of work on. Now who's the better player so far? Well, let's see. Bane is averaging close to 16 points on 40% shooting from three, which is great for a second-year player. And Green is averaging 1.3 points and hasn't made a three yet this season. Yeah, yikes. So let's look at the pre-draft selection and whether Dallas really did stuff this one up. So first, we'll look at Desmond Bane. Bane, before heading to the draft, was playing for Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, not far from Dallas. In his senior season, he was able to average 16.6 points per game on 44% shooting from deep. And as far as defense goes, he averaged 1.5 steals per game, which is pretty good. He ended the season by making first team All Big 12. Looking at this, you'd think it'd be the perfect 3-and-D option for pretty much any team. However, what held some scouts back was A, he was in his senior season, making him a little bit older than the rest of his competition, and B, he had a 6'4" wingspan while being 6'6". Now, I'm no NBA scout, and probably never will be, and this is probably why. But in my opinion, wingspan can be a very, very overrated measure when talking about up-and-coming players. Like, look at the top 10 players with the biggest wingspans right now in the NBA. How many of them are getting decent minutes in the NBA? Now, I can see the advantage of it, but if the dude can play, he obviously could, and then why worry about his wingspan? In the end, Bane was selected with the 30th pick by the Celtics, but would get traded to Memphis, shortly after essentially having all NBA teams pass up on him, except for the Memphis Grizzlies. Josh Green, on the other hand, was heading into the 2020 NBA draft after his freshman season at Arizona. His season at Arizona wasn't exactly that bad. He averaged 12 points per game with a shooting percentage of around 45%, and averaged 1.5 steals per game as well. Green was coming to this class as an elite defender, which, he's shown patches in the NBA, had the potential to be a solid all-round player for any team. What made him go up so much higher compared to Bane is, much like I talked about before, his wingspan. Green has a 6'10" wingspan, which is stupidly big for a guard, and made him versatile as a defender. But, like I said, the wingspan is useless if you can't use it to your advantage. Dallas obviously saw this as something they liked though, and picked him with the 18th pick in the 2020 NBA draft. So let's look at their NBA career so far. It's no doubt that Bane has come to the NBA much more ready, and has a role much better suited for him. He's a straight up 3-and-D guy, and pretty much got going from the get-go. Whenever he got a chance to put up some quick threes, he would. And did it at such an efficient rate, especially for a rookie. Memphis looked like they trusted him from the get-go, and solidified his role pretty quickly, that he was able to get stable minutes that allowed his game to grow further to the point where it is now, where he's a starter for Memphis and averaging around 16 points per game. Unfortunately for Josh, his journey in the NBA has been quite the opposite. Josh came to a team that really didn't have a solid role for him. In fact, I don't think Dallas really knew where to put him or how they could use him effectively. First of all, they had Josh Richardson and Tim Hardaway Jr., who probably were their best shooting guards, and really did deserve more minutes than Green, but didn't allow him to grow as just spent time on the bench or in the G League. What also didn't help was his passive playing style. I mean, from what I saw, he never did anything that wrong, but in saying that, he never really did much right, as he didn't do much on the court at all. Like the most shot he ever attempted in a game is 7, and he's never even gone to double digits for points scored in a game yet in his whole career. But you can pass it off as rookie jitters, and just not every player starts off well. But now, this season really confuses me. With new head coach Jason Kidd at the Realm, they've changed the roster, and I just don't get it. I mean, yeah, if you're not sold on Josh Green, I get it. Don't give him minutes, trade him, or just put him in the G League. Which, in his one game he played in the G League, he scored 20 points shooting a close 60% from the field. But anyway, they decided to pick up Frank the Tank, Sterling Brown, and Reggie Bullock. And no offense intended to these guys, but they had their chance to prove themselves in the NBA, and they just never took off. So why would you take a guy that your team drafted and give his minutes away to guys that already couldn't cut it at other teams? Because if not, you may as well release him, trade him, or just keep him permanently in the G League. Because I might be biased here. Actually, I am being biased here. But Green's ceiling right now is much better than those guys just mentioned. Plus, I feel like his floor isn't behind these dudes. But hey, that's probably just me. So all in all, were Bane's comments that disrespectful? I don't think so. It was definitely a jab, but it's not like he sucker punched anyone. Bane is just proving a point. He had every other team pass up on him in the draft and is playing with a chip on his shoulder. Not to mention, when you play for Memphis, you already have that extra chip. But I think he did take it personally from Dallas. He obviously had his heart set on getting drafted there, and I feel like if he got taken just a pick later, he would be there, as they had the 31st pick. But they had an opportunity at the 18th pick, and I can say, they definitely regret not taking that chance. And no disrespect to Green, but Bane just fits the system so much better, and didn't make sense why they didn't take him in the first place. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please support this channel in any way you can, and just leave a comment down below on what you think of this whole situation. Cheers, and have a good one.